Hi, my name is Miha Mazzini. I will read you my own short story called Master of My Own Body that was originally published in 2018. At my age, when life is more inventory than wish list, you realize that the essence of life happened within a single year. Before you were preparing, after the resigning, grandfather had said. It was the distant look in his eyes that made me remember the words, even so my attention usually switched off every time he started reminiscing about the war. 40 is high time for writing a first novel. The resolve has not yet soared into the frustration, nor have experiences separated into despair. For years, I've been secretly putting money aside and gathering the courage to talk to my wife. I once even practiced before the mirror. Our son is on his student exchange trip and he'll be gone the whole year. I'll take unpaid leave from the ministry. I know, I could be made redundant in my absence, but just remember how after the first month at the office, I took out the dictionary and checked the differences between the definitions of boss and idiot. Of course, she said, why have you waited so long? Being understood immediately is more painful than not being understood at all. When old age caught up with the anarchist Marius Jacob, he put all but one outstanding matters in order and killed himself. In his farewell letter, he asked to be forgiven for leaving a pile of washed laundry, explaining he really hated irony. The agreement my wife and I had made included house chores. She took over most of them, but knowing how she disliked ironing, I left her a leaflet on the table. Ironing service at your home, older woman, conscientious, discreet, Maria, phone number. I deliberately started on the 1st of January, challenging the evanescence of New Year's resolutions. My novel flowed through the keyboard until mid-May, and my wife got used to my absent gaze during dinners. When our son came to visit, he didn't notice anything. Maria came over for the first time at the end of January. When I opened the door, I was surprised at the contentment on her face. She smiled incessantly. I realized how long I hadn't seen a genuine smile and how used I had become to TV celebrities gleaming Vaseline lips or the compulsive grimaces of politicians. She was probably a few years younger than me and had put older in the leaflet just to appease the wives. Smaller, angular, her light lacking plaster, she shuffled her way through to the living room and the heap awaiting her. I hadn't told anybody I was writing in English. I decided to do so after reading about the latest Slovenian best-selling book that has sold 300 copies. I wish my work to have more readers than pages. The rapid progress of my work surprised me, so in March I sent out 10 emails to American literary agents. Surprisingly, so it seems reasonable to me at the time, a few actually responded, and I signed an agreement with one to deliver the manuscript early next year. In February, Maria was wearing a plaster cast on her left hand and rattled with it on the ironing board. I was afraid it would disturb my work, but once I started writing, I became engulfed in my novel. In March, I made a remark about how slowly her hand was healing, and she replied, "Don't worry, I can work well enough with my left hand too. You won't notice the difference." I closed my eyelids as my brain tried to sort out the information. Wait, your right hand is broken. But last time, it was the left, she smiled. And the foot before? Yes, that's accidents, just waiting to happen. My agent's name is Ted, and we Skype once a month. I don't know why. He looks tiny compared to the table lamp next to him, his face long and lips raised like the rind of an orange somebody has just started peeling. He has sad eyes. Occasionally, he stops mid-sentence and uses his knuckle to dry shave the front of his Adam's apple. When he starts talking, he sounds like he spent his youth on the road with Leonard Skinner. Later on, he sheds his accent and starts quoting from how to get published books I have already read. He arranges his monologues into series. April was about literary history. After Henry Miller, writers are no longer selling their works, but their lives. I tried to object that my life might be grey, but my novel, he shook his head and the camera caught the sweet melancholy his face was made for. Readers nowadays are not buying novels, but personalities. May's lesson was about adding virtual glamour. I should build my presence on every possible platform and become famous so the publisher will have heard about me before he contacts them. Everything is important, from friends on Facebook to followers on Twitter. I started asking myself for the first time why an American agent would sign an agreement with nobody from Slovenia. Has he lost his faith in Jesus, or has his parrot just died? By this point, I was convinced that Maria's smile was just cover for a deeply unhappy person. I found Winnicott's book on human nature and reread the part about being accident-prone as a manifestation of depression. I took pity on her and next time made her a coffee. My agent is my corrosion. Her sermons poured electrolytes into my body, and by July, my novel has turned from solid steel into the specks of brown dust. Ted wants me to become famous to make his work easier. This I understand. But if I would be famous, why would I need a Leonard Skinner roadie? His words have poisoned me. I have spent days in front of the computer watching YouTube stars doing things to make them famous. Nouveau Riche with 7 billion views playing a computer game and squealing like a missing link yet to be found. The star of the day with millions of viewers is a girl who showed off her hairy armpits. I wonder what my novel has to do with all that. I can't tear my eyes away from the screen pondering about stupidities popular enough to comply with Ted's wish. I had always thought of my novel as an expression of my talent, if indeed I have one, and my imagination, therefore individualistic and even in the most limited and humble way, unique. That switched me from writing to searching for the lowest common denominator, its depth obviously related to the number of people involved. In the global world, it couldn't be lower. Thoughts about being 40 oozed acid onto my wound. I was born to write this novel, and for the rest of my life, I'd be just reconciling with what I've done this year. I must finish my manuscript, and the book must be successful enough for me to toy with literary ideas instead of office files for the rest of my life. Tweets fall down the screen like snowflakes of ubiquitous insignificance. Each of them prove that the person exists but not necessarily lives. When I'm finished with the keyboard, I soak my hands for a long time. Watching YouTube, I sometimes think gouging my eyes out would be less torturous. Maria hid her depression really well. I found her satisfied with everything all the time. I couldn't resist, and at the beginning of summer, I asked her about her injuries. She said, I worked at the factory and I thought that was that. I'm well provided for. Then they moved production to China and found myself in the door without much hope of getting work again. I had to attend training classes at a job center, getting skills to get me back into work. How to write a resume, a letter. Have you ever been in this situation? No. Thanks, God. Well, as I said, that when you are contacting an employer, you don't sell your skills, but you're selling yourself. You have to stand out to be noticed. She paused and added, as I said. She took a sip of coffee and I looked at my hands. My fingers were shaking. I hid them under the table. And I urged her on gently and compassionately. The others said it was all bullocks, but it stuck with me. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Her smile dampened for the first time and she suddenly stood up. I have to finish ironing. My husband is going to pick me up soon. The hardest part was faking my faraway look. My wife asked how my novel was going and I lied. Well, how could I tell her I failed? My novel shattered at the first step of contemporary creativity, self-promotion. I imagine mankind spreading over earth like mold, each spore shouting, notice me, read me, buy me. I'm too late. If I had started writing in my 20s, I would just have caught the times when there were still more readers than writers. I stopped listening to Ted's sermons and simply saw him as a festering abscess, wondering why I don't just puncture it. Probably because he's the last remnant of my illusions. Maria kept calling me writer and I twitched every time. It was time to concede. I had to tell Maria that we would no longer be needing her, delete what I have written, return to the office, take a hole punch and punch holes through my fingers. In August, the cast covered her left hand up to the shoulder. This schooling is so expensive, she said. I nodded, even so I no longer listened carefully to anyone. I told my wife I wouldn't shave until I finished the novel, but I really just didn't care. I found my need to stay in bed all day pathetic, so I moved to the sofa during the day. You know, Maria said, I stepped into the hole in the pavement and sprained my ankle badly. The doctor said this is sometimes more painful than breaking a bone, and it really was. I got some money from my house insurance, and a friend said I should sue the municipality. I won't stay away. All the time, I was still thinking about what I had heard at the job center. I walked a lot. One day, I stopped in front of a ditch that the gas company had dug but not clearly marked. Suddenly, I realized the job center was right. These days, you need to sell yourself. I've always done physical work, and all I have is my body. I stepped into the ditch and sprained my wrist. The gas company settled out of court. So that's my job now. I go around breaking my legs, arms, and whatever. Electric companies, waterworks, roadworks, you can't imagine the number of holes they dig, the number of business opportunities they offer. I groaned and couldn't take my eyes off her satisfied face. You're pulling my leg, I finally articulated. Upset, she pouted her lips. Why would I do that? I can see you're a good person in trouble. That's why I decided to tell you my story, to show you that the life always sends you a new opportunity. In January, you felt like a man doing what he was born to do. Now you look more lost by the months. Writer's block. Yes, I admit it, and it was easier than I thought. It happens to me too, you know. You stand in the front of the ditch and think, do I really have to go through this suffering again? Sometimes I get stuck for a week, but I keep on returning to that hole. Like it's calling me, I can't let go and forget. I'm experienced now, and trust me, the sooner the better. What must be done immediately. Believe me, I have to put my ankle into the gap and fall. I will hear my bone splinter scream with pain when I call the ambulance. I shook my head. Her smile. That's my job, my career. I found myself. I'm happy. I iron to get out of the house, to chat a little. For the first time in my life, I'm independent. I make more than my husband. You know how respectful he is now. I finally have a feeling that I'm in control of my life, my body. And I meet so many new people in hospital. I couldn't take my eyes off the whiteness of her plaster. The children will draw all over in the evening, she said, and smiled encouragingly as I tried to focus on my breathing and gather myself. I set September 1st as my deadline. I will either be writing again or I will tell Maria to stop coming. I should have told Ted first, but couldn't muster the strength. Instead, I pretended that I wasn't there when he called and deleted the email he wrote afterwards without reading it. I opened the door just in time to catch a man on a bike burning his tires as he disappeared around the corner. He's getting crazier every year, Maria said. She wore a brace on her hand and a plaster cast on her left leg. Still school fees, is it? I asked. Yeah, so expensive, she said, adding with optimism. But it's a good school, you know. For the first time, I stood by the window as she ironed. Slowly and hesitantly, I started telling her about myself and my writing. Losing my thread, starting again, and in her eyes, I could see how she was trying to connect the words into a sense. When I fell silent, she said, "Isn't it the same everywhere? They want the whole of you. Why would it be different for writers?" You are right, but I would feel real shitty if I'd comply. I was silent for a long time before quietly adding, maybe I just don't know how to. If there is a decisive year, there must be a decisive moment in it. August was still hot, but autumn was already poking its finger in the evenings, and in the mornings drifts of mist hid behind corners. My heart shrunk and ached like it would never recover. I poured her a coffee. I'm sorry, I said. Just stop me. You might be being too noisy. But I was wondering, do you actually enjoy this? I hinted toward her leg. Her laugh was surprisingly sonorous. You asking me whether I'm a masochist? I told you how hard it is for me to do it. Come on. Of course not. Her smile disappeared and took with it the volume of her face. She was left with tiny expression of somebody who had spent her school years sitting in front row, not because of being nerd. You didn't understand a thing, she was saddened. I was pushed into the corner for all of my life, at home, in the school, at work. Yet all the time I had the feeling that I could belong, if only I found this something inside me, something that was wrong with me, that I could comply. Her face started lighting up again, and it happened. There's meaningful work and payment for me too in this world. I'm so happy. I felt it was indecent to gaze into her eyes that glistened so much, so indecent to gaze into her eyes that glistened so much, so I turned to check the time on my watch. My husband is late, she said. He should have been here ages ago. She called him, but there was no answer. I can give you a lift, I said. We stepped into the rain that was softly extinguishing summer. Are you passengers covered by your insurance too? She inquired as she fastened her seat belt. She told me where she lived and we set off for her suburb. When we reached the bypass, we got stuck in traffic that was moving slower and slower. It must be an accident, she said and leaned forward to see it sooner. We finally arrived at the policeman waving us to pass quickly. With every swing of his hand, the raindrops sprinkled from his cap. Stopped across the lane behind him, I saw a large lorry and a pile of metal under it. Bike, Maria gasped and shouted. Stop! Why? My husband's motorbike! I couldn't take my eyes off the scraps of metal under the lorry. I recognized the sticker. Stop! I stopped right next to the lorry. A policeman winding up a measuring tape, drawing in narrowed his eyebrows. My husband, Maria cried and ran towards the wreck. I sat on the bench outside the hospital. The rain had stopped and an evening mist was slowly spreading. She looked small and lost, her plaster cast the only pillar holding her up. Broken ribs, collarbone, punctured spleen. She went on in grim voice, and with every wound I leaned further towards her eyes in order to discern the strange glitter in them getting stronger and brighter. It is true, she explained. She exclaimed, you never know where good luck awaits you. Her voice emanated pure gladness, spilling over us caustically and poetry. I have already stood back. She didn't notice. Her face glowed, the smile restoring its volume, changing in seconds from mousy dullness to translucent beauty. I will never have to work again. I stared at her. Oh, she covered her mouth with her hand in embarrassment, turned around, and quickly limped back inside. When Ted wanted to get going, I remember Maria's success story and stopped him with, fuck off. His lips turned up higher than I ever imagined they could. Ah, sharpness, finally, he said and cut off. This time I'm not only I not only wrote fast, but also with anger. In September, when I called Maria, her number has been disconnected.